What's going on, everybody? Hey, it's Angelique. I am back again. I'm back again. Angelique, I am the founder of Ladder Masters Inspirational Leadership Group. I said that fast, didn't I? Ladder Masters Inspirational Leadership Group, better known as Ladder Masters. I am here every week. This podcast is specific to domestic violence awareness. It is called Silent No More. I think y'all get the point why we have to be silent no more about domestic violence. Because, first of all, it happens way more than any of us are willing to admit. But if you do, stop just one moment and say to yourself, for real, what's going on? Just about every one of us knows somebody who's been through it or is going through it or knows somebody who knows somebody. The bottom line is this thing is crazy. It's ridiculous. I myself am a survivor. I still recognize my story of abuse and I tell my story of abuse because it's just crazy what happens to women and even to men and the stuff that children experience by being in the household that abuse is taking place. So, anyway, again, I'm Angelique. Hello, this is another Sunday at 7 p.m. Thank you for showing up. Right now, whatever you're doing, stop just for a second and hit that share button. I don't care who you share it to, some group you're a part of, or maybe you tag somebody that you know. But before I get into this material, we have got to get as many people here live as possible to hear this message up front because I got a lot to tell y'all. And we got this last section of this book that I've been working through for the last 4 weeks. This is week number 4, Surviving Domestic Violence. This is the voices of women who broke free. I'm one of those women. I'm proud to say I'm one of those women, but it was no joke going through it. So again, hit that share button, tag somebody you know that needs to be on here because people are all over social media looking at all kinds of videos and all kinds of liking this and loving that and everything else. But they need to stop by right here to this podcast every Sunday at 7, Silent No More. So let's get started. This podcast is brought to you by none other than absolutely my favorite group of folks in the world. This is the Unique Blessings Family, the nonprofit organization. This podcast is sponsored by or powered by the UB Podcast Network. I am proud to be a part of that family. So, what's up, Chantel? What's up, Jacob? What's up, all of y'all? That's a part of the UB family. I miss y'all. I haven't seen y'all a little bit too, by the way. What y'all been up to? So, anyway, I'm here. This is week number 4, the final week of this 4-week book discussion. All right, so y'all ready? Let's get into this thing. All right, so usually when I start, I say a quick prayer. I realized that last week I did not remember to do that, but not this time. Not this time. So I'm going to take a moment, bow my head, say a few words because there are plenty of reasons to pray when it comes down to domestic violence. Plenty of reasons. So, Father, I come before you just thanking you for yet another evening, a Sunday evening, that I can stop and I can speak these words. From the experience that I've had, I can speak these words. From the reading and research I've done, I can speak these words. My whole goal is to speak the truth and hoping that that truth will break somebody free, will help some victim to escape, will help some survivor to heal, because I know that journey and it's not an easy one. So, God, I just thank you right now for every victim. I thank you for every survivor of domestic violence, God. This stuff is scary. It's crazy. It doesn't make sense. Yet, 1 in 4 women go through it. I mean, it's everywhere. It's your coworkers. It's in church. It's at the grocery store. It's in the women's club you're a part of. It's unbelievable. So, God, I just ask you right now that you use me in this moment to say such things that will move somebody's mind, heart, and bring them into alignment so they will break free and escape from a situation or help them to heal from what they have been through. I thank you for all these things. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen. All right. So for this person that I see this on, because right now we got 1. I don't like that, but that's okay because this is recorded. For that one person, I'm hoping that you can see me, hear me, make sure I know that because I want to make sure we're good. So anyway, I'm going to keep going. Again, this book is called Surviving Domestic Violence. It was written by an amazing woman by the name of Elaine Weiss. She is a doctor, so let's give her that respect. Dr. Elaine Weiss. So here we go. Highlights from last week's discussion. Now, first of all, you guys know that this book is centered on the stories of 11 women who survived abuse. And I'm telling y'all, every time I read another story, I'm like, oh my God, that is me. Like, I have been here. I have done that. I've been through it. That's exactly how, like, yo, like, were we with the same dude? Of course not. But that's what it feels like. That's what it feels like. So anyway, last week's discussion was on section 3. I'm going to give you a quick recap. So Whitney Benson, she went through teen dating violence, but her story was included, and I'm glad that it was, because we have got to acknowledge the teen portion of this. People think is, oh, they're just young people and they're struggling to communicate and they're just having hard times. No, no, no. Same behaviors, same traits, same patterns is still abuse. So in last week's discussion, we talked about Whitney. I want to bring up a key point. All she wanted was acknowledgement of the episode, of things that were happening to her in front of people that both she and her abuser knew. She just wanted some acknowledgement. She says it would have been enough if someone had said, hey, Brad, which was his name, I saw that. But when no one spoke up, the silence was her answer. So this is okay. This is fine. This happens to everybody. Is that what they're trying to tell me? The question that I posed last week, why is the world so silent about domestic violence? Why? That's the question I posed last week. And ooh, baby, the discussion was fire. I got so many comments. So listen, if you're watching and you got something to say, I want you to pop that comment in because I can see it and I'll show it to everybody else and we'll talk about it. Second person from last week, her name was Andrea Hartley. She happened to be a doctor. On page 134, the author said, the human mind cannot hold what it cannot grasp. And so we as humans invent these like mental models. Mental models are our way of making sense of the world. And what do we mean by that in relation to domestic violence? It is inconceivable to many people that a strong woman, and I don't just mean physically strong, I mean someone that you have watched grow and prosper and produce and make a career and all these things, it is inconceivable that a woman who is strong can also be a battered woman. That is what's hard for people to understand. So they create these mental models. Well, you know what? Then that means women who are abused must be weak, must need a man, must have 5 kids and 3 baby daddies, and must be uneducated and doesn't have any money. Nope, nope, nope. I was none of that. I was none of that. Yet I found myself in the same situation as many of these women in this book. I guess technically all of them in this book. So that was from week 3. The last thing from week 3 I want to bring up, the other woman, her name was Dawn Kincaid. And Dawn, in her story, she reflected on factors that kept her from leaving. So listen, y'all, I know everybody sees a victim and they say, oh my God, she's so stupid, right? Look, come on, let's just keep it real. She is so stupid. Why is she letting him do this to her? Or even in the situation of a guy, why is he letting her do this to him? It happens on both sides, just mostly for women is the case, the 85%. So she says her husband's family was extremely wealthy. They basically owned the town she lived in. That community they were in was so connected, and she was just an outsider because he had moved her away from her network. She took her marriage vows seriously, so she really didn't even think about getting out. That just didn't even seem like an option to her. She was also afraid of him and afraid of what he might do if she left, what he'd do to her and what he'd do to himself. So don't think for a second that people just want to be, hey, listen, you guys that are on here, just send me a quick note. Let me know you can hear me and see me just fine. Because every once in a while, there's some issues with the connectivity. I want to make sure you're hearing me and seeing me just fine. All right. So now that was last week. It was good. Woo-hoo! If you were not on here, thank you, Cassandra. Thank you. If you were not on here last week, you have got to go back. If you can find a minute, go back and watch last week because the people on here were like, what? We were going crazy. Here was a lot of back and forth and a lot of comments. So anyway, y'all are the best. Now let's jump into this week. It's for real, y'all. This is the last section and it was good. It was so hard for me to stop taking notes. All right. So this week, this section is section 4. And the section title is Letting Go, Going On. And it's three more stories, the final stories of the women that are told. Her name is Jesusa Fox, Lilia Lopez, and Mary Ellen, I think is Casimian. I think that's how you say her last name. All right, so this final section, oh my God, we're going to bring this to a close. Y'all ready? Jesusa, she was in her situation for 12 years. Oh my God, when I think back to my 6 years and I think about doubling that, oh, please, I just can't. But after 12 years, she knew it was time to speak up, stop that silence, and speak up about what she had been through. It was necessary. So let me kind of rewind her story. She was married. Jesusa was married to an extremely violent ex-Marine. He was an ex-Marine. His name was Hank in the story. I have no clue if these are even real names, y'all, to be honest. But his name was Hank. So now I'm at page 168. In case you bought the book and you want to go back and take a look at this. She escaped. She left without furniture. She left without her clothes. She left without any makeup. And because of where she was from, she even left without her naturalization papers. That's the key to the story, where she was born. All right. But here's the thing, y'all. This part is hard for me. All the mothers out here who are going to watch this, who are watching right now, she also left without her two sons. One was 4 years old and one was 6 years old. Ouch. Ooh, just thinking about it. Now, I know how I felt when I read that, how I felt when I just even read it. So you may be thinking, what, like, how could she leave without her baby? How could she do that? I know I thought, like, there's no way I'm leaving without my baby. That's what I'm thinking, right? Well, let's just be clear. Let me explain the types of fear that these abusers instill in their victims. Hank, again, this guy, I even hate his name. He threatened to have her deported if she took the boys to the shelter, which she was trying to get away to, and she was unfamiliar with the whole naturalization law. She didn't know. She wasn't from here. And so she believed that he had the power to do exactly what he was telling her. She didn't know. So she said, I got to save myself. He wasn't abusing directly her boys. So she got herself safe. All right. Okay, here we go. Let me see what this comment is. Thank you, by the way, for putting it in. I was in that situation for 5 years. I always ask myself, why didn't I leave sooner? Gosh. I don't know if you still ask yourself that question now, but I know what it's like to have asked it while I was in it and shortly after. That's one of the weight I still carry with me from that situation. I left pregnant. You and I could talk for hours, for like hours. I appreciate you. That is vulnerability to even share that. I appreciate you. I don't know if it's Cassandra or Cassandra. I'm a name person. I'm Angelique. So if it's Cassandra, I love to say your name the right way. Thank you, beautiful, for even sharing that. I appreciate you. So how about this? She left 4 times, y'all. This woman, Jesusa, left 4 times. She stayed in the shelter 4 times. But the first 3 times, it says in the book, she felt guilty. And she ultimately went back home because of feeling that guilt. But the 4th time, she did not feel guilty. You know what she felt? The book says she felt angry. The day she went to the shelter, guess what her husband did? You know, Hank, him, that one. Guess what he did? He filed for sole custody. That ain't it. Wait a minute. That ain't it. He filed for sole custody and he claimed the reason he was doing so was because she was an unfit mother, as if he was a fit father. Don't get me started. She was an unfit mother based on a litany of lies he told to the court. Whatever that motion was he filed, he told a ton of lies. And he also added in there one thing that the book calls an inarguable truth, that she abandoned her children. So let's put this in perspective. He was abusing her like crazy. She went to a shelter 4 different times, left, came back, left, came back. He was abusing her, yet she was the unfit mother. It amazes me the pictures that these dudes get to paint about the women they abuse When it's them doing the abusing, I can't. I can't. So let's keep going. Notice how that said one inarguable truth that she abandoned her children all day long. If you ask me, that is absolutely arguable. Absolutely arguable. Page 169. Jesusa says she found it difficult to take care of the boys because Hank was degrading her all the time. He was slapping her. He was strangling. The book says choking, but I don't like when people say choke. Choke is what happens when you eat a grape and it gets stuck in your throat and you cough it up. That's choking. Choking is when you swallow some water, goes down the wrong pipe, and you go, and everybody's like, you okay? Patting your back. That's choking. What he did was strangling. Can we all get that word right? He strangled her. Let's call a thing, call a spade a spade. He strangled her. He was degrading her. And get this, y'all. He even put a plastic bag over her face more than once. More than once. This was a part of the pattern of abuse. He twisted her arm behind her back. Are y'all listening? He twisted her arm behind her back so viciously and so frequently that the ligaments in her sustained like permanent injury. She now has problems with that arm to this day. And we're calling her unfit in court. We're calling her unfit. Right. He forced her to be unfit and then used that against her. I don't even know this dude and I hate his behind. I don't even know him. Yeah, exactly. Because it gets crazy like that. So I will say this, though I cannot imagine ever leaving without my baby, I can't. The truth is, Jesusa didn't just abandon her boys. She actually felt like she had no other choice. Listen, I went through domestic violence, but I don't know what it's like to have a plastic bag put over my face. I don't know what it's like to be strangled. I know what it's like to be put in a headlock, but not strangled where someone's hands are around my throat. I don't know what that's like. So she, in her mind, she felt like she had no choice but to escape what she saw coming as her death. And she thought, well, if I take my boys, I'm going to get deported. At least he's not abusing them. It's something about me. He just wants to hurt me. Let me leave. That's what she thought. Gosh. Oh. So yes, thank you. Like she was running from a good man. He had nerve. He had the nerve. My experience too in court, I realized that abusive men will do and say absolutely anything. They don't care. They will say absolutely anything to make you look like the problem, to make you look crazy, to make it look like you were the bad person and they're the victim. I can't stand any of them because it's all calculated, y'all. Cassandra, I don't know if I'm saying your name right. Baby, beautiful woman, you know what I'm talking about. They will make you out and then get their family and friends to join into the charade. It is disgusting, absolutely disgusting. So I'm going to keep going because I can get stuck there for a while. Here's the thing at the custody hearing, let me tell y'all what happened. At the custody hearing, her lawyer, so Jesusa's lawyer, was really attempting to fight these custody claims. But because Jesusa never filed a police report. She never filed a police report. There was then no evidence, nothing to back up these claims that such violence had actually ever taken or happened to her. She had no proof, y'all. Ah, and that's the part that saddens me because I understand why you wouldn't call the police. I get it. So she tried to explain to the judge that she was caught between these issues. She says she was caught between her fear of what Hank would do if she called the police on him. I was trying to pause for a second and think, just think, because I remember these feelings myself. If I call the police and they don't take him away, if he doesn't end up locked up, and I just called the police on him and he has to come back into this house with me, now what is it going to be? Now what will it be? What is he going to do then? Listen, I get it. I know what she was thinking. And the second thing they tried to explain to the judge was that her fear that was when Hank had told the police officer, something that Hank actually told her. He actually said that a police officer would never believe such accusations of abuse against an ex-Marine. Listen, y'all, she wasn't from here. She didn't understand how it all worked here. And she thought, well, shoot, he told me a police officer, they in with the Marines, they're in with the with somebody who's in the military. They're like brethren, I'm sure she thought. That's what he made her think. They're never gonna believe me, they're gonna believe him. What's the point of calling him? He had her so brainwashed. He had her so lost and confused. She had no idea what was right, what was wrong, what was up from down. She had no idea. And so her fear made her not call the police. But you know what else that meant? She had no evidence of anything going into court. So guess what? Hank's lawyer framed it as, Your Honor, this abuse is just a figment of her imagination. All right. So let me say this. Paper trail. We need paper trails. Victims have to. I don't know how you do it. I know what I did. I have 2 cell phones, 2, one for work, one was personal. I used to keep one of them out in plain sight to make it look like, you see my phone? You can see my phone, right? While the second one, almost all the time, would be under a pillow with the microphone sticking out just enough so it could catch what was going on in the room, so it can catch the audio. My phone, I swear to you, I had so many recordings, so many pictures that's what I took to court with me. I had so much evidence against my ex that you know what he did? And he found out how much I had, because when you file these motions, you got to share with the other attorney what you got. I had so much evidence against him that when he came to court, when he had the chance to stand up against me and say, that chick lying, I ain't do nothing to her, blah, 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 what they all lie and say. When he had a chance to do that, he did not. He signed a consent agreement because he knew, let me get on that stand. I'm going to play the tapes and I'm going to show the pictures and I'm going to tell it all because you did it. We have got to have a paper trail. Ladies, we have got to have a paper trail. All right, let's see. Cassandra, I appreciate you. I appreciate you. All right, so here we go. Now, there is some truth to why the police thing doesn't work. So let's see what she says. I filed a police report, but I was so measured in what I told them. Oh, I got it. I understand that. Oh, baby, I understand that. I knew I needed their help, but was afraid of what he would do if I made him mad by reaching out to the police. I just said that. Listen, y'all, that is a real thing, because when it's so bad, when the heat is more than just hot in that house or in that apartment that you're in with them, you call the police. What happens? Listen, I don't even know her man, but I bet you I'm gonna tell you what happened when the cops come, right? She's hysterical like I was. And he did this and he did that and you are hysterical because of what just happened to you. It's a fact. You are all over the place because of what they did. And what does the abuser do? Gets himself together, thinks through what they're going to say when the cops arrive. Oh, we're just having marital problems. We got some difficulties, but it ain't all like what she said. Listen, they got the story, y'all. They got the story. You absolutely believe it. They got the story. So the cops come, and it's like, you look like the crazy one because you're frantic, you're crying, and what they're telling you, ma'am, I think you should go get yourself a hotel room. You should leave. While he sits back and he's like, got her. Got her again. They play this game. It is terrible. And you would think by now that law enforcement would be wise enough and trained enough to see this stuff coming a mile away, but they could be as dumb as freaking doorknobs. Man, it was ridiculous. So anyway, I appreciate you sharing your comments. I really, really do. You are awesome tonight. All right. So lessons, you need some kind of paper trail, and it needs to be kind of airtight. And I used to get to the point where I would record things or type things or send emails about incidents so I wouldn't forget them. And I would send them to my mom and delete them out my email so that he couldn't find it. I would send them to my mother and then delete them out of my own email so that someone else had a copy. She would print them or do whatever and keep them for me for when it was time. Oh my gosh, this stuff is so serious, y'all. Hey, hey, Jacob, what's going on? So much purpose and power in this message. I always get educated on this podcast. Thank you. That's my brother right there. That's my brother right there. Hi, Jacob. Thank you for joining tonight. All right, so I'm going to keep going. So you need a paper trail. Listen, abuse. This is the definition. Domestic violence is defined as a pattern of behaviors used by one partner to maintain power and control. Did you hear me? I said power and control. I didn't say anger. I didn't say frustration. That's bull crap. Ain't nobody angry. Ain't nobody frustrated. It is all about maintaining power and control. Hear me. So let me keep going. A pattern of behaviors used by one partner to maintain power and control over another in an intimate relationship. So that's what I'm saying. If it is a pattern, a judge is expecting to see evidence of a pattern. That's why the paper trail is essential. They have to believe that you need protection from someone who is showing or displaying a pattern of power and control, of abuse. I hope I've said enough. I mean this, y'all. You have to have the paper trail. Okay, so let me just say y'all real quick. This whole thing about framing, about the police and what the police will and won't do, let me tell you real quick about my situation. It's all too familiar to me. Been through that as well. So I'm gonna back y'all up. I got the date down. You know how I got the date down? I got the date down. I could tell you it was October 30th of 2017. Why can I tell you that? Because y'all think I'm crazy. I took every single recording that I had of what my ex did to me, and I literally transcribed them. I typed them. I had proof in an Excel document of everything that I could possibly get down in writing. So that when I took it to the judge, here's all of it. I'm not lying to you. This is a pattern of power and control. So let me keep going. This is what he said. Friday, October 30th, my sister at that point had called the cops on him. All right. My sister's in Philadelphia. I'm in Charlotte, or just outside of Charlotte. My sister was so done with the situation that from Philadelphia, she called the police, who got her to the Charlotte Police Department, who they sent to my home to break up the madness at my house. He was furious. My ex was furious. You got your people calling the cops on me, F them, this, that, and the other, right? Blah, 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 blah. This is what he said. He said, I am reading verbatim. You got me? You are twisted in your head if you believe that. He was referring to if I believe that I'm being abused. So now he's trying to do the mind game, the 52 fake out on me. That shit means nothing. You're twisted in your head. The police are there again? What the fuck is wrong with her? He's saying that's what people's going to think about me. What is wrong with me? You call them all the time. These are his words. I ain't going nowhere. I ain't leaving until I'm ready. And you know what? At that time, although I was trying to play tough Tony, because that's what Philly girls do. We from the North. We from up top. We don't play scared. We play tough. No matter how we feel in our hearts, you play tough. You show tough. But I swear to you, I was like, he's never going to leave. I had called the cops how many ever times before that, and he succeeded in straightening himself up, putting on his A game, being that salesman when the cops showed up. No, it ain't like that. It's this, it's that, it's this and that. It's your officer, Oh God, I just can't. Like, even when I think about it, I just want to throw up. All right. Is abuse learned behavior? I'm going to get into that question. Let's say this. I'm going to say yes. How it was learned, I don't always have the answer because it depends on that particular situation with that person. Can it be learned? I want y'all to think about kids who grew up in abusive households. It's the same thing when people talk about alcoholics or drug abusers, right? They say the kids in that household are either going to go this way or that way. They're either going to be alcoholics or they're going to never drink a drink in their lives. They're going to be druggies or they're never going to smoke nothing, do nothing, shoot nothing ever in their lives. It's not very different when it comes down to abuse. So I'm going from the kid's side. I'm going from the when you grew up in it side right now. I do believe that people who witness abuse can, I'm just going to say can because I'm not going to say will, they can adopt those patterns of behavior and then begin to think that that is life and that that is how women interact with men or men interact with women. They can, but that's not what they all do. So can it be learned? Sure. Can it also be learned from the perspective of, I watched somebody else get what, oh, I did that and I got what I wanted by doing this little thing. Let me see what happens if I do something else. You also learn from people's responses. You also learn from the reaction you get. Oh, I did that and she did this. So maybe if I do this, she'll also do that. And then it becomes I can get what I want. I can get my power and control and I can maintain it if I do this over and over again. So it can be learned, but guess what? Can we take that word learn for just a second? If it can be learned, it can be unlearned. So I'm not just going to say to somebody who begins to learn these behaviors and take advantage of them is just forever going to be that. But at the same time, I'm also no dummy, baby. I am no dummy. I'm not going to spend time ever again trying to teach you because it's not my job to love you through it. You better go somewhere, get yourself some professional help, the help that you need to understand that that's not how we live. That's not how we interact with humans. That's not what we do. It's just wrong. All right. So is it true that abusers never change? Well, most. In my opinion, this is just me. This is just me. I am not on the side of abusers, most of them change. I am on the side of it is a pattern, it is a choice. And when abusers begin to take advantage of that, what you will notice is there isn't just one, right? You know how they say you can't just eat like one Pringle and you can't just eat just like one M&M. You just can't. It's just, or one Reese cup. I love Reese cups. You can't. What I see from abusers is when they are with the one they're with and they're getting close to when they're done with that one, there's another one set up in the wings. It's like disgusting. And it happens over and over again. And I've seen it even in my situation, my particular ex. There was one and then one in the wings, and there was one and then one in the wings. And the story is disgusting. And I'm just telling y'all, it's real. So, all right, let me go to Jacob. Jacob asks, does domestic violence start mentally from the abuser and that person can't control their emotions? See, I don't believe in the can't control. So let me just, okay, can't control their emotions and mentally they are damaged and he or she already plans to perform the act of domestic violence. I do not believe. I 100% believe that abuse is a choice. I could see someone making a mistake at one point and one time and potentially accidentally becoming, I don't even want to say that, but becoming violent. But the minute you do that and say again and again and again, I'm not of the can't control. I believe that it is a choice to try to control because if you go with the definition of what we're discussing, domestic violence is a pattern. It is the willful. It is willful. So willful, will means choice. I willfully am doing this. That's what that person is. So I don't believe they can't control their emotions. And I don't believe it's emotionally led at all. In fact, it is a very decided behavior because it is a pattern. It is therefore a choice. So that's my opinion. And that's from what I've read and studied. So I'm going to keep on going here. All right, because I got a lot to tell y'all. Thank y'all for your questions. Y'all are awesome. Again, if you haven't yet shared this, I know y'all are part of groups. I'm a part of many groups on Facebook. Right now, share this particular live broadcast. If you have to, go in and just think of somebody. I know y'all know a lot of somebody. I got a lot of friends on my list. Go in there and type in a name. Tag somebody in this. All right. Why does it seem like people are magnets for abusers? Okay, now this is a really, really good question. And I'm going to stop and I'm going to take my time here because I'm going to share what again is my opinion, but things I have read. So let me just talk about me so I can make it personal and make it real. Here's what I know about me. I'm awesome. Okay. I'm just messing with y'all. I am awesome. I mean, that is indisputable. Okay. But that's not what I'm trying to say. I'm just messing with y'all. What I realize is that in all of my power, in all of my courage, and all of my strength, and all of my ambition, and all these things, what I do have is an empathetic heart. I am an empath. Okay, so I'm going to talk about that just a little bit. Empaths are people who identify deeply with other people's feelings. So that part of myself, Cassandra, I had to learn to tone down because abusers are looking for certain types of people. Now, let me just pause right here because I don't want any of you to get the wrong impression. If you are a loving person, you should still be loving. If you are confident, you should still be confident. If you are empathetic to other people's challenges or issues or obstacles, you should still be empathetic. What the problem is, can I just shoot this word out right now? If you don't hold on to any other word for the rest of this session, hold on to this word: boundaries. We need boundaries around all of that. You can be loving with boundaries. You can be empathetic, but you must have boundaries. You absolutely must do it. So, to answer your question, you are correct. It seems like, it appears that abusers, or some of us are magnets for abusers, it's because they are looking for a certain type of person who is extremely responsible. Can I add that word to the list? Cassandra, responsible. Someone who is not going to let the bills fall apart, who's going to make sure that no matter what, everybody's taken care of. The bills are taken care of. There's no such thing as the lights going off. I'm going to go to work in spite of what I feel like. I'm going to make sure this house is taken care of. They're looking for loyalty, responsibility, empathetic, loving people. And there is absolutely nothing wrong with any of those. Those are beautiful traits. But abusers take those very things. If you are trustworthy, they take those very things, the very best part of you, and they distort them, and they make you think you're less than, and they torture you because of those very special parts of you. And so what do you need to do? You need the B word, not that other word. You need this B word: boundaries. Period. Boundaries. Okay. All right. Absolutely welcome, Jacob. No problem. What level of anxiety and depression do victims of domestic violence go through, and how do they overcome these challenges and obstacles? Ooh, tell you what, I can answer that as I go. Do most people of domestic violence still believe in real love? I do. But I'm going to get to your second question. I do believe in love. I believe that it's a real thing. I believe that I was cheated. Can I just say that? I believe that I was cheated. And I believe that this beautiful person that I am, that there is someone who will more than just respect that, who will honor it, who will adore it. I don't know where he is. However, and I'm not chasing it. I learned that lesson too. Slow down, ladies. Slow down. Don't be in such a rush to be in love, because you will overlook things to get that feeling or that part of you fulfilled, or what you think is fulfilled. And then you end up in situations like I was in. So let's not do that. But I'm going to get back to your question. What level of anxiety and depression do victims go through, and how they overcome it? I'm getting to that. So let's get back to Jesusa for a second. She lost her custody battle, but the thing is, she reclaimed a lot of herself. So I'm back at page 172. She reclaimed a lot of herself that she lost during that horrible marriage. She did have and does have weekly court order visits with her kids. I think that sucks, because she was the abused, but yet he's got custody. I can only imagine how much he holds that over her head. Gosh, do you have any idea what it's like to co-parent with an abuser? It is it is the worst thing ever, until finally sometimes some balance is reached. But in the beginning, that is just their next piece of control over you. You want to talk to them? I'll think about it. Phone turned off. You can't get in touch with them. They only let you talk for so long. When you're on the phone with the kids, they play music real loud in the background so you can't even hear your kids. I know all of it. I know all of what that's like. So trust me, it's no joke. All right, so I'm gonna keep going. I want to say something that came up in this particular part. She says, freedom, page 173. Freedom does not always announce itself with parades and fireworks. It isn't always like, I'm free. Can you believe it? It's not always some big thing. Sometimes freedom is in the small things. For example, Jesusa is able to now go back to needlepoint, things that he would never let her do. Why? Because he didn't want to see her working on this brightly patterned needlepoint thing. He didn't want her at peace. That was a part of her peace. But now she can do that. Now imagine for a moment that that peace, that freedom, is in something as simple as she says, a moment of just not being under constant surveillance. I know what that's like. I also know what it's like to feel like you're being sleep deprived, where they come and wake you up constantly and won't let you rest because they need you off balance at all times. I know what that's like too. Her freedom, much like my freedom, was the sheer, utter, exhilarating relief of being free to simply be, to simply breathe, to relax, to not look over my shoulder without constantly being on guard. That was important. All right, so I'm going to keep going because there's so much here. There's so much here. But I want to warn you guys, listen, at the end of the story, the author, this particular story, the author talks about her own self. She talks about her own story because she was a victim of abuse as well. And she says, let me just turn this on to myself just for a moment. And she says, the summer after her husband, Melvin, after they separated, her husband, Melvin, began an affair with her friend. This is the author talking. Her husband began an affair with her friend, Sheila. Now, we all highly question the use of that word friend because I'm gonna tell you right now, I'm not, I don't even know. But the bottom line is, if the author chose to use that word in this book, that is how she perceived this woman. She perceived her as his friend. So there was an affair going on, which the author was not aware of at the time. Are y'all hearing me? This is page 174 now. The author is now speaking back about herself. But through a couple of conversations and some interactions, she started to see some weird stuff that was going on with her friend. And she said, within a flash, suddenly she knew that her friend was sleeping with her ex-husband. So anyway, she said that basically what she noticed was that Melvin, her ex-husband, had begun to chip away at Sheila, her friend, Sheila's vision of herself. And I'm going to say this to y'all, and I'm going to get to the next story. Ladies, why do we do this? Why in the world do we take sloppy leftovers, especially when the person you're picking up was an abuser? Why? Why is that? I have to imagine that this friend of hers, this Sheila person, was around for a lot of what happened to her. But yet you think you're going to take her man and what? You special? What was it? The sex? Was it really that good? I mean, sex is sex. It can be really good. We all know that. But really, you picked up her man who was abusing her for many, many years and decided you were going to be with him. So what you thought he was, what, it was her fault that he was abused and you were different and you were special. He would never do it to you. Please, ladies, stop. Stop thinking that the ex woman is just jealous and she just hating and you just wish he was still your man. No, boo boo, you missed something. I dropped him. I was done with him. Now you want to pick that up and think you're going to be special and get something new? Okay, girl, I wish you well because I'm trying to tell you, stop taking these leftovers and thinking she just mad and she just want him back. No, we don't. We're good. Promise you, we're good. All right, so let me keep going on. So I want to get to the next story, but I want to make sure I go back to Jacob's question because it was a good one. The question was, what level of anxiety and depression do victims of domestic violence go through, and how do they overcome these challenges and obstacles? Very, very, very difficult. So I will tell you, I'm just going to end up going off script because y'all questions are so good. I ain't gonna be able to go through this. From my situation, I remember the level of anxiety that I faced to the point where I knew I needed help, medical help, medicine, all of that stuff. It was hard. I could not sleep, y'all. I couldn't sleep for like more than 3 hours at a time. I think a lot of that had to do with the fact that he was waking me up and not allowing me to sleep. Like it was terrible. He would bust into the room. And like I remember one time I had slept for 24 hours and he did not care. Y'all don't understand this kind of stuff. And so those things, I know people talk about the physical abuse. One of the ladies in their story talks about the physical abuse and how bad it can be. But you know what she says? The thing that stuck with her the most was after all those bruises healed, after all that, it was the psychological, mental, emotional stuff that was hard for her to get past. That's the stuff that lingers. You know what? I tell people all the time. Now I'm on a rampage. I tell people all the time, stop telling kids that, you know, that thing that we used to say, sticks and stones may break my bones, but names will never hurt me. Bull crap. That is the biggest lie ever told to kids. Sticks and stones, yep, they break your bones, but names, yes, they do hurt you. And they hurt you in ways that you carry with yourself for years and years to come. And so you find yourself in counseling, you find yourself healing, you find yourself having nightmares, you find yourself anxious. People do things that remind you of your abuser and it sends you into a panic. Trust me, phrases can send you into a panic. Smells, little sense of certain cologne or whatever will send you into a panic. I need you to understand that this stuff can last for a very, very long time. And so when people get frustrated, men be like, don't be bringing me your mess from your other man's situation. Leave that at the door. All that crap guys like to say, leave that at the door. Sir, you have no real good understanding of what you're talking about. So when I don't trust you right away, and when I don't give you my number right away, and when I don't do these things, don't take it personal, baby. You should understand that people have life experiences that change the way they interact with the next person. Because if you don't change the way you interact with the next person, then you'll be right back where you were, going through what you went through. And then what would you have learned? Nothing. So when I say you can't have my number, get over it. How about you work a little bit harder for it and stop just asking like I'm gonna throw you my number like I just supposed to give it out to everybody that walk past in the park. It doesn't work that way. Not at all. So yes, we overcome these things though by doing what I'm doing right now, by speaking my truth, by telling my story. I'm going to skip ahead because there's a whole thing in here about silence. God, I got so many pages. There's a whole thing in here about the problem with silence, how there's so much silence around domestic violence. Did y'all hear the name of my podcast? It's called Silent No More. And it's called that because we have to speak up, and not just the victims of domestic violence, it's all the people around us. It's the people around us see it and typically turn and be like, if I look this way, then that doesn't make me responsible. I can just act like I ain't hear nothing, see nothing. No, you can't. No, you can't. This has to stop. It's so important that we stop. It's like we expect victims. I said this last week or 2 weeks ago. We expect victims to have all this courage when they're the ones who are in immediate danger. Where's your courage? Where's your courage? How can you sit and watch and not say or do something? I don't care if you're the one that just says, yo, hey, yo, and breaks the moment, or calls the cops on their behalf, or something, follows to see where they live and tell, I don't care what you do something, but don't just expect victims to figure it out all by themselves. Believe me, they are living in dangerous situations and they need more help than they could possibly ever communicate to you. All right, I'm gonna keep going because there's a lot of comments. Thank you for tagging, Lakeisha. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Thank you, Jacob. I appreciate you. All right, let me keep going back up. Thank you for tagging, Cheryl. For real, it's another level. Oh, here we go. It's another level in the game when you have to co-parent with the former abuser. I don't think y'all understand. Listen, I'm writing a book, and this is part of my book, what co-parenting with an abuser is like. Listen, it's entrapment, y'all. It's entrapment. Did you hear what I said? It's entrapment. Abusers are wise. I hate to even say it and give them mofos any credit, but they are wise. They understand the power of living in the same space with the woman they want to abuse. They understand the power of marrying these women. They also understand the power of impregnating them. Because when a baby gets involved, that mother who is the victim of abuse will do just about anything to protect that baby in her belly, or if that baby has already been born, to protect her child. And if that means they take on all of the abuse, all of it, to spare that baby, she will do it. Do y'all understand? It is deep. So when it's time, when you finally get away from them, when you finally get away from them, and it's time to co-parent, you think they wanted you to be away from them? Do you have any idea how much they want to control you and have power over you? How dare you get away when I didn't say it was okay? How dare you leave when I didn't say you could leave? Oh, you think you're going? But we got this baby right here, and I made sure you had that baby. You don't even know that. I made it like I wanted to be a father and a good husband. No, I want you to have that baby, and I actually want you to have a couple of them, because the more kids you have, the more tied you are to me for years, and you can't just get away. So if I can't touch you physically, I'm gonna touch you and frustrate you by not paying child support. I'm gonna touch you and frustrate you by not letting you talk to the kids when they're with me. Oh, the list goes on and on about what abusers will do to maintain power and control even after separation. It's a real thing, y'all. Don't sleep on it. Don't sleep on it. All right. How spiritually damaging is for domestic violence victims, and how do they reach the level of spiritual growth that allows them to claim the victory to reclaim their identity as a divine woman of God? How much time we got left for this one? Ooh. Mm, mm, mm. So let me just quickly tell y'all something. My story is heavily intertwined with the church. Heavily. Heavily. So my ex found many ways to use the church as his backdrop for what he needed to do. Why? Because I was in church. At the time when I met him, I was abstinent. Well, that went out the window. But I was abstinent when I met him. I was a dancer. I still am a dancer, a praise dancer in church. I was one of the leading dancers in church and got caught up and lost in that situation. Bottom line is, our whole thing, I mean, premarital counseling and going to church together, and so excited I was going to be the wife of this God-fearing man, all that. Right. So when all of it went down and I did not have the support that I needed from the church that we went to, when I didn't have any of that, and I would reach out and I still didn't get the response I needed from the church we went to, it was terrible. So when I got out of that situation, I felt like, if this church that I've been paying my tithes to, paying my first fruits to, in the ministry, doing all these things, if I can't get the support from there, what is this church thing? What is it anyway, for real? Where is God in all this? You better believe it was tough. I'm telling y'all, it took me so long to even go back to church. I couldn't even, church meant something to me that was like a thing that people use for show, because that's what he used as his cover, a part of his cover to get me. So add spirituality into me being a person who was loving and empathetic and responsible and all this thing, and I thought I had this guy. Yeah, no. Church was the last thing on my mind. It took me about over 2 years to even go back to a church. Then I finally joined a church called New Beginnings Church in Matthews, North Carolina. Yay! So it is devastating. It is devastating. I went through many people at the church who were trying to counsel me. And thank God for the deacon who told me some very important things and helped me to see that I was in no real position to even understand what I went through at the other church, to understand the depths of it from that other church and that experience, because spiritual abuse is a real thing. Let me just put that word out there. People talk about physical abuse, emotional abuse, psychological, sexual abuse, financial abuse, but can we all remember that there is a thing, a real thing called spiritual abuse? And when the church people are around you and they do nothing and they remain silent and they pretend and they don't really help, they're a part of the problem. They're a part of the spiritual abuse. And I can't stand them for that. But it's the truth and it's painful. But I thank God that I know him and I don't see God through man. Because when you keep trying to see God through men, you will never see God. You have to see God for who he is and what his word says he is, because that is what he is, not what these people on earth play games and play church and pimp God. God, I wish I could just do something about all of them. All right, so thank you, Jacob. That's a rough one for me. I don't even talk all about my story because it's a lot. It's a lot. Thank you for tagging all these people. God, I love y'all, man. Bonnie said, "Come on, sister, tell the truth. Sometimes we forget that they are victims. One day we or someone we love may be the victim." Yes, indeed. So thank you for all y'all that are jumping in here, tuning in. Bonnie, you tag Bonnie and you tag Sherilyn. Oh my God, y'all are on fire tonight. Oh my gosh, that's okay. Listen, this is every week, Bonnie. This is every Sunday at 7 p.m. Every Sunday, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I am here. And if I'm not going to be here, I'll tell y'all. But let me tell you real quick because it's 7:55. And I'm going to stay a couple minutes over because this is important. Next week, next Sunday, I'm being dramatic. Y'all like that? Next Sunday, August 29th, is my 44th birthday. That's not why I'm telling you this. I'm telling you this because next Sunday's episode, when people say fire, that's fire. It's going to be lit. Do they still say that word? I'm getting old. It's going it's going to be lit. It's going to be lit. I am bringing, people talk about, let me explain this. People talk a lot about, where was her friends? Where were her family? What was going on with her colleagues? Didn't they see her getting abused? Where were all these people that supposedly loved her? Well, you know what? I'm bringing those people on. Y'all hear me? I'm bringing my circle on to the show. We're going to talk about what they saw, who I was before, what they saw when I met them, what happened when I was going through it, and the after effect. If you never tune into this podcast again, I need you to tune in next Sunday, August 29th, because my birthday episode, y'all ain't ready. You ain't ready. It's serious. My girls that saw me from beginning to end are coming on. So make sure you tune in next Sunday. Make sure you tune in next Sunday. All right. Amen. Amen. Thank y'all so much. I'm going to keep going because I got a couple things I got to say to y'all. Some of this stuff is so important. But this is why we tell our stories. This is why survivors of domestic violence tell our stories. Because if you don't, if someone doesn't give you that life-changing piece of information, if someone doesn't say to you, I know what that's like, but here I am on the other side. If someone doesn't give you a glimpse of what life can be like after abuse, these abusers make sure you never see it. It is our job. It is our job to make sure that victims and survivors of domestic violence get a glimpse of what it can be if they can just figure their way to safely escape. Because there is something beyond abuse. It's called life. It's called freedom. It's called breathing. It's called living. That's what we want people to know. This stuff is real, y'all. So I'm going to keep going. Okay. So I got to bring this up because I thought it was amazing. I'm going to read this exact quote from the book. I'm on page 191. If you ever get the book, I'm on 191. This is what it says in the book. And I want y'all to give your opinions of this. A woman may remain with a batterer for years, enduring unspeakable assaults on her body and mind. She will leave when she gives up the dream. Did y'all hear that? This is what I want your opinion on. She will leave when she gives up the dream. When she says to herself, I don't want it anymore. I'm through. He's a mean, nasty, evil person. I'm not going to be abused anymore. The phrase is, she will leave when she gives up the dream. What y'all think about that? Do you believe that victims of domestic violence are often holding on to a dream of what, who he says he is, or whether or not he's, going to change, or whatever it is? Let's see. Because women like projects. Wait a minute, though. I'm not laughing because of it. I'm laughing because I know exactly what you mean. We think we can fix it, that we can mama or mother or nurture everybody. And you can't. Because let me tell you something. There's somewhere in here where one of these women talks about her belief that if she could just be nicer, if she could just be better, if she could just not make him angry, if she could just do the right things, say the right things, dress the right way, cook the right food, whatever all those things are, that she could keep him from abusing her. She says that. So she spent all her energy, I'm skipping around, she spent all her energy trying to please him and trying to not make him upset and here it is. It's on page 197. All her energy went into keeping the peace with, now there's another lady, with Troy. Let me tell y'all something. Back to this whole thing about the project, women like projects. There is no such thing. Are you listening? There is no such thing as keeping the peace with an abuser. Rewind to my definition of domestic violence. It is a pattern. It is willful. It is power and control. I don't care if you were as peaceful as Sleeping Beauty. You are going to be, if you are with an abusive man, or a man is with an abusive woman, he or she is going to abuse. That is what they do, because that's what they choose to do. It is power and control. Let's stop kidding ourselves. Listen, I don't care how much energy she put into keeping the peace. We will, I will never have enough energy to keep peace with an abuser. Did you hear me? I said never. That's what they do. And because you yourself are a person of peace, you yourself are loyal, you're responsible, you're loving, you're caring, you're empathetic, you have a freaking conscience. I don't think they do, but that's just me. You have a conscience. You don't operate like that. So you will never have enough energy to combat that energy. And when you realize that, when you give up the dream, when you give up the dream, that is when you leave. That is when you'll be able to leave, when you give up the dream. All right, goodness gracious. Guys, there are stories in here that are just crazy. I'm gonna stay on for like another 10 minutes just because it's important that I say some of these things. This particular woman who was trying to keep the peace, the violence continued in her household. I'm on page 198 now. Each episode was worse than the last. Listen to me. Her husband broke her arm. Listen, he broke her arm. He broke her nose 3 times. He broke 3 of her teeth. He ripped out big chunks of her hair. He broke not 1, but 2 of her ribs. And if any of y'all have ever had your ribs broken, you understand that is a pain. Let's not even discuss it. He broke her toe. He ruptured 1 of her kidneys. Are y'all listening? And then there was a day he nearly killed her. Why? Because one of his coworkers ridiculed him at work. Listen to this. This is the kind of stuff that I'm trying to tell y'all to understand. It has nothing to do with what the victim does. Nothing. It doesn't matter what she does or doesn't do. This person is going to abuse. And in this case, one of his coworkers ridiculed him, and he came home just fuming. He's just mad. He was embarrassed. I don't know what he's feeling. Dummy. Whatever it was, get over it. But he didn't. He came to the door, and his whole demeanor, she said she knew she was going to get beaten. Y'all, he beat her until she lost consciousness. And then he got into his car and drove away. A neighbor who heard the commotion is who called 911. By the time the police arrived, this woman, whose name is Mary Ellen at this point in the book, she wasn't even breathing. Y'all hear me? She wasn't even breathing. She ended up in a coma for 2 weeks. 2 weeks. Her CAT scan showed multiple brain hemorrhages. Multiple. She was not expected to live, but God, she did. When she woke up, she was in a different place. Long story short, she gets away from this guy, and she basically tells him, I guess the look in her eyes she gave him, she said, you might want to leave the country, is what she told him. Like, y'all know what I'm talking about. You might want to leave the country. That look, that feeling that somebody gives you when they ain't playing with you no more, she gave him that. And guess what? He moved to the Canadian Rockies. He knew she wasn't playing. Oh, how I said, he knew she wasn't playing. She wasn't playing with him. And so they get divorced and the whole thing happens. Thank God. I'm going to tell you what that look was. That look was, you better back up. Okay, that's not in the book. That's just me, right? That's not in the book. But that's what the look said. Her look clearly said, I'm not playing with you. You better get going. You better never touch me again. I never want to see you again, because if I do, who knows what's going down. I can appreciate that because everybody has a point. Everybody has a point when. But I'm going to say this to y'all because I got to close because it's getting late and y'all staying on. I love y'all for that. This is so good. So she talks about how that physical abuse was terrible, but she says the verbal abuse, I think, this is page 198. The verbal abuse, I think, was the worst thing he did to me, because that's the only part I struggle with after all these years. So she's like, I've healed here, I've healed there, I'm doing okay. But that mental part, that verbal abuse, that part's hard. So listen to me. I'm going to say this to y'all in closing. In an abusive relationship, the good values that we all bring into that relationship somehow become bent and they become warped. I hope y'all can still hear me. I see the signal is doing something weird. It becomes bent and it becomes warped. For example, privacy. Let's take that word privacy. In a healthy relationship, privacy is a good thing. There should be some privacy. Everybody should know your business. Everybody should not know your business, period. Privacy in a healthy relationship is a good thing. But there's a significant difference between privacy and secrecy. Difference between privacy and secrecy. Let me tell y'all a quick story. Early on in my relationship with my ex-husband, I will never forget, because he certainly brought this up. One day he overheard me on the phone with my best friend, and I was telling her something. I get off the phone with her. He comes up to me. This is before we were married. He comes up to me and he says, so do you tell your friends everything? And I was like, now listen, inherent in that question is, No, I don't tell my friends everything. That's what you think you're supposed to say, right? That's inherent in the question. Inherent in the question is making you think, ooh, do I? Should I not? Maybe I'm not supposed to. But he was doing that because he was preparing me for what I didn't know he was preparing me for. He was preparing me for the keep your mouth shut, the keep you better not talk my business to other people. You don't start that now. If I can stop you from doing it now, I can make sure you won't do it later for when the stuff really comes. Can y'all still hear me? Because I want to make sure y'all can still hear me because my signal thing is doing this weird stuff. All right. So intervention. Intervention, the author acknowledges that it's never easy, but we have got to intervene because if you fail to intervene, that entwines the victim and the observer in this conspiracy of silence. It brings the victim and the observer into this conspiracy of silence. I saw it, you did, but I ain't saying nothing. Well, I can't say nothing either. And next, you know, everybody's silent. Do not be intertwined. Do not help victims by or think you're helping victims by keeping quiet. You have got to find a way. If you intimately know of a situation, come on, y'all. We have got to figure out how to stop being silent because silent no more is what's needed. All right. So I'm at the end. The simple act of a witness naming what they see, that's abusive. That's domestic violence. Speak the words. Get comfortable with the words. No, it's not, oh, they just having arguments, y'all. They argue like that all the time. No, 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 no. People should not have daily arguments. Communication should not be constantly aggressive and hostile. That is verbal abuse. Call a thing a thing. Call a spade a spade. We have got to get comfortable with naming these things, naming what we see, because that even that alone is the start of what being enough is. That's the start. And then it leads to speaking out and doing things like I'm doing with you tonight. All right. I didn't get to everything because this stuff is so good. It's so good, y'all. Listen, I'm going to show y'all this book one more time. It's hard to, okay. Surviving Domestic Violence, Voices of Women Who Broke Free by Dr. Elaine Weiss. It is a great, great read. I have learned so much from this book. I have been inspired. I have cried like a baby, all kind of stuff in this book, but it's good stuff. All right, so real quick, I'm gonna go back here because I gotta catch these questions. All right, do abusers hide? Wait a minute, hold on. Do abusers have any underlying personality disorder? You know, I don't want to get too psychological or like I'm a psychiatrist or some kind of like licensed therapist because I am not. I am not going to touch that answer because I have opinions about personality disorder, and because I feel like if you say yes, then that gives people an out. Well, if you got something wrong with you, I suggest you recognize it and go do something about it, not take that out on other people and make a pattern of it. So to me, I don't call the disorder. I could be wrong, but I refuse to say that because when I think of my ex, and I'm sure Cassandra, if you speak up, and whoever else is on here, when you speak up about what was done to you and how it happened, that crap, I wasn't going to say crap. I know I was going to say, right? Woo! It was calculated down to the words. Let me tell y'all, hold on. Real words from my situation. I'm your husband, and I know what rights I have as a husband, and I know exactly what I can get from you, and blah, blah, blah. I'm sorry. Is that personality disorder? No, I'm sorry. That's not, I don't buy that. So I'm gonna keep going. Like narcissism and sociopath. Okay, I've heard the words. I've heard the words. I've heard a lot and I've read a lot. Do I think it's a disorder that is uncontrollable? I do not. I do not. Do I think people can get professional help? Do I think that people can change and stop abusing? I do. But it has to be about their knowledge of the need to change and they own it. Because what abusers do is they don't own it. Everything's the victim's fault. Everything's the victim's fault. So I'm not one of those. I take too much responsibility. I'm too accountable for my own behavior. So no, I don't go there. Thank you, Cassandra, for telling me loud and clear. All right. The bones fused, the flesh healed, and what's left are the emotional scars. You're a poet, Cassandra. I already know it. You're a writer. How do you put bandage on that? How do you suture that? How do you cast that? Okay, listen, me and you, we got to talk after this, okay? Because there's something with you that I need to connect with you because Can you understand that I mean that? I mean that. We need to connect after this. Okay. All right. So Bonnie said, you better say that. There's a difference between privacy and secrecy. There's a difference, y'all. Don't keep those kind of secrets. We teach our kids, don't keep secrets from mommy. And then mommy grows up and gets around Jeff, and Jeff is treating her like poop, and mommy's keeping secrets. Wait a minute. We knew from kids, don't keep secrets. Why are we doing it now? Don't do it. Don't do it. All right. Thank you, woman of God. I'll be sure to have some ladies on that need this information. Absolutely, y'all. I appreciate y'all so much tonight. My God. All right, Bonnie, women that nurturing a demon makes things worse. Yes. 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 Women are dreaming of their knight in shining armor, but are living with a coward, a weakling, a monster. Please wake up out of your nightmare. It ain't a dream, baby. It's not. It's a nightmare. I promise you. If you don't jump soon enough, it'll be worse than a coma that you may not come back from. You've got to jump before it's too late. Jump meaning escape. All right. I appreciate you guys so much. It's been a phenomenal night. It is 8:12. I stayed a little bit longer even than I planned to. I told y'all next week, next Sunday, August 29th, my 44th birthday episode. It is going to be all the way live. I'm publishing the flyer tomorrow. I'm going to keep promoting it because I don't want anyone y'all to say, oh my God, I missed that. Nah, you're not missing it. Invite people, share my post when it comes out because this thing is what we all need. Last thing I'm going to say, I believe that women, we don't talk enough about ourselves. I understand that everybody doesn't need to know your business, but there are lessons that we have each learned about men, life, careers, aspirations, technology, whatever, investing, whatever, that we've all learned, but we don't share enough with each other. We have got to figure out what sisterhood really, really means. A part of my sisterhood to you, to all of you, is sharing my story. Because if I can keep just one of y'all from stumbling over this same block, from ever feeling what it's like to go through domestic violence, from having to have your baby watch you go through it, from her seeing it, if I can stop just one of you from experiencing that, then you know what? Telling my story was worth it. And I'll tell it all daggone day long because we have got to stand for each other. Because listen, there's many of us for every one man. And these abusers, don't think for 1 second they're abusing one. No, no, no. Like I said about Pringles, they don't just have one. They eat one and they find the next one and the next one. And you know what? Some of us have dated some of these same guys. It's disgusting. But they find one and another and another and another. And they run through us because we don't tell each other what to watch out for. We don't talk about the yellow flags and the red flags. I'm talking about it. And I'm going to keep talking about it. And next Sunday, I'm going to have my girls on the line to tell me what I didn't see and to tell me what I went through, how it affected their lives, and to talk about how they helped bring me through and what role they played and the pain they felt watching me go through it. I love y'all. I thank y'all. Tonight was awesome. I will see you next Sunday, 7 p.m. Eastern time. We are starting on time because we got a lot of ground to cover. It's going to be me and like 5 or 6 other people. So we got a lot to talk about. All right. I'm going to miss y'all till next Sunday. Y'all are the best. The best. I will see y'all soon. Okay. I'll see y'all later. Good night, y'all.